Veterans Day, a day to honor the more than 20 million Americans who've served through the U.S. Armed Forces, is just days away. But often, as veterans leave the military and transition to the civilian workforce, they're met with uncertainty and unease. So today, to talk about veteran entrepreneurship, veteran employment, and how we can support veterans as they transition to the civilian workforce, I'm joined with Steve Cloetingh, the CEO of Military Veteran Partners, a new company who is invested in the future of veterans. So thanks for joining me, Steve.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you very much.
So I want to jump right in and talk about how veteran entrepreneurship is facing, since that's something that MVP is really focused on. After World War II, around 50% of veterans owned or operated their own businesses. And now post 9/11, we're seeing around 4.5% are now having business ownership. So what do you think the change is? Is it just more people aren't as interested in owning their own business? Or is it that veterans don't know where to start, or another obstacle?
Well, I don't think it's a situation where people don't want to own their own business. I think it really isn't just a fair comparison. My dad was one of those people who started a business after World War II. And if you think about it, 10 million veterans were released into society, and clearly there wasn't enough supply to address the demand. And so the ones who were smart, in my mind, who took advantage of that, went ahead and started their own businesses, and were able to meet that demand. And of course, the government was more proactive at that time in giving the GI Bill, which gave them the capital to start businesses, because of course capital is needed to start any business.
You mentioned government. Is it their role to help veterans as they're starting their own business, or is it something else?
I think it's their role to certainly do that, but is it realistic that they can do that the way that we believe it needs to be done? They certainly can provide money, but we really believe it's the private sector that really should do that, and of course the government isn't the private sector. To be successful, the entrepreneurs need networking, they need mentoring, they need training, and they need capital to do that. And they really need it to come from people who have been there and have done that. And I think that that's the private sector more than it is the public sector.
And switching gears a bit to talk from veteran entrepreneurship to just veteran employment. Right now, the veteran unemployment rate is around 2.9%, which is the second time it's hit under 3% since 2000. So that would seem to indicate that veterans have more opportunities, but that may not be the case.
Oh, I think that veterans have a lot of opportunities, and there's some wonderful companies out there, Amazon, Comcast, T-Mobile, who are out there with wonderful programs and focusing on hiring veterans. The issue is, and some are successful and some are not, unless a company is really prepared to invest in those programs and address those things that I talked about, the mentoring and the networking, and really create an environment where veterans can succeed, then it's not going to be successful. And you're seeing that, frankly, in the statistics. 65% of veterans who take their first job leave that job. And that's not good for veterans, and frankly, it's not good for companies either. It's very expensive.
So what can companies do to attract and retain these employees? Well,
I think they need to be realistic and understand that there are different situations, different needs for veterans. For example, I think a lot of companies, and trust me wrong, their motives are wonderful. They really want to do the right thing, and they also recognize veterans as a true asset that they can utilize and improve their company's performance, because obviously they're on the hook for that as well. But I think that a lot of times they hire someone based on what they did in the service, and not necessarily, and then kind of match that to a function within their organization, and they don't think about all those other soft skills and things under pressure in battle, and working with constrained resources and things that would matter. I also think that the veterans joined the military. Remember, right now this is not a subscription. This is people voluntarily joining the military. They do it to serve. And I think that they miss that in that environment. And so it's a lot of different things that are affecting that. It's a challenge.
Right. And hopefully some more of that mentoring and training can also help with that.
Well, it does. And I think that they just need to, again, invest in it from the beginning. It's more expensive. You have to create a program and an environment to be successful. And if it's outside of your norms, of your normal processes in your business, then it's just more costly. And sometimes companies, they're under budget, and sometimes they just don't do that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming in to talk about the issues around veteran entrepreneurship and employment, and how we can support these veterans as they're transitioning to the civilian world.
The veterans are wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Yeah. And to all of our nation's veterans and their families, we want to thank you for your sacrifice and your contribution to our country.